H-Town, featuring Shirley Murdoch. And they're going to talk about thin lines. Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies and gents, it ain't even 5 o'clock, but it's close. And you got to knock on a couple of doors. Even got to kick them down from time to time. Now, y'all hold on, H-Town. Ladies and gentlemen, that was H-Town. You know what? A lot of videos talking about a lot of information. Sometimes I can take the information for granted because unlike most of you, I've gathered the information over the last 50 years. And gathering the information, as I tell people, my mind sees everything like a puzzle. And if you really want to know how my mind works, I've explained it to people, and some people literally got it. I mean, they could literally go ahead and explain it. I got to pause y'all for a second. Give me 1 second. Okay. Now, if you look at the time, just swing it back 5 seconds. You'll see that was a couple of good minutes. But again, some people were able to understand me when I say it's like watching the movie Minority Report. And when they're doing the computer screen in the air and moving things around, well, that's how my mind put things together. And that's how I'm able to grasp a lot of the things I focus on, I think about. I often say I take some of this for granted, but I actually don't. I don't. The reason why I don't take it for granted is because I go about talking about it on video. See, if I took it for granted, I wouldn't talk about it to anybody. I'd just keep it to myself. There is an opportunity. Get out of here. Nobody wants to see you. There is an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, for each and every one of us to ignore everyone else, not care about anybody else but ourselves, to be selfish. Now, like I said, although selfishness is a requirement in life, we are required to be selfish to a certain extent. Being selfish is not the extent we're supposed to be. Does that make sense? Okay, if it doesn't make sense, it should have made sense. See, you can be selfish, but you don't have to be selfish. You know, why are you so selfish? You heard people say that, right? Yeah, I know y'all have, because people say it to each one of us. Very few of us will somebody not make that comment. Why? Because we all appear selfish to somebody. We all put ourselves first at one point. Paul speaks about when he was a child, he used to think as a child. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've grown, I realized that when I was a child, I did think as a child. I didn't think about others, didn't care. My mother actually brought that to my attention a couple of times. I didn't pay her no mind. She didn't know what she was talking about, is what I thought. But she was right. As I got older, I made it my goal, my effort. Tonight, I'm just going to talk. Just for a couple of minutes. Not going to be here long. Because I got to go and relax so that I can go to sleep. But I was thinking about, of course, my friend Kevin tonight. Then I was watching this thing with Jim Carrey. And it's the YouTube video is Jim Carrey Doesn't Exist. And it's just a film that a group of guys put together about Jim Carrey. And it's well done. But I was watching Jim Carrey, and ironically, I don't like Jim Carrey that much. He didn't make me laugh. But you want to know something? I have a lot in common with Jim Carrey. Lord have mercy. I didn't realize it until I actually heard him talk about his life. Not the family life thing, but the growing up part, the thinking, the mindset. I have a lot in common with Jim Carrey. I didn't have all of the experience he had, but I understand his mindset. See, I didn't like Jim Carrey because they propped him up too much. They were trying to make me like him, and I didn't appreciate that. They tried to make people fall in love with Jim Carrey as an actor, and that doesn't work with me. I don't go with the crowd. But I like Jim Carrey. I have a lot of respect for Jim Carrey and Woody Harrelson. Okay? Those two individuals, they see the industry for what it is. And the fact that they don't cater to the industry, yeah, a lot of respect for those two. Now, let's continue. While watching that, I remembered a young man. His name was Keith Preston. And Keith was a very good friend of mine. And Keith, I knew Keith since he was, I think when I met Keith, he was 7 years old. He was my best friend at the time's nephew. And Keith's mother, well, his grandmother took care of him. The mother, she was there, but she wasn't there, if that made sense. And Keith got shifted from mother to father, father to mother. They were divorced, and he had sickle cell anemia. And I didn't understand everything Keith was going through because I was always in a different state. So we were always talking on the phone, and he was always talking about the pain that he was in. I couldn't empathize with him because I had been through pain. I go through pain every day. I couldn't empathize with him, but from what I've come to understand, the pain he was going through is worse than what I've gone through. And he went through that on a daily basis. He didn't live to see the treatments that they have now for sickle cell. They just now approved a treatment, it's about time, for sickle cell, because they're now putting money into that because too many people are affected by it. But because the majority, 99.9% of the people who suffer from sickle cell anemia happen to be persons of color, well, since there's so much color in everything now, they're now starting to put money into it. It's about time. He didn't make it until that point. Keith passed away when I went through my little stint in 2012. And I was thinking about how unique that young man was. His thought process. Here's the thing. He wouldn't have stood out to anybody else. Nobody else would have appreciated him, his mindset, what he thought, how he thought. But he was a very unique person. And the fact that he cared about people to a level to the umpteenth degree. Those are the type of people I tend to be around. They're the ones who nobody cares about. But they care about everybody else. They care about what people think about him. And he was more so concerned about how people felt about him and thought about him. And again, I was still too young to grasp what he was going through. And I did not know how much he was hurting. See, when you have sickle cell anemia, the first thing the doctors do is pain relievers, pain relievers, pain relievers. That's all they give you is pain relievers. And they give you narcotic pain relievers. Because that's the only stuff that works. That little other junk doesn't work after a while. So they end up getting hooked on drugs. Keith was no different. He got hooked on drugs. Never did any drugs around me because he knew that I wouldn't have tolerated it. But he knew that I knew, and I never brought it to his attention. Never put it in his face because that ain't my character. But I had a lot of respect for Keith. Now, I expect to see my friend again in the resurrection. I do firmly, as you heard on the video about the Only Begotten Son video, you heard me speak about the resurrection. You hear me speak about the resurrection quite often. That is my hope. No one can take that hope away from me. Without that hope, I'm, like Paul says, the worst and the most to be pitied. Because without the resurrection hope, there is no hope. If it's live today and die tomorrow. And I was listening to Jim Carrey, and he talked about the will of the universe and destiny and Please, universe don't have no will. I know there are a lot of you who believe in the will of the universe, and I don't understand where that mystic stupidity comes from. If the universe had a will, none of us would be here. Pay attention. If the universe had a will, none of us would be here. The universe would have turned against us a long time ago because of our ignorance, our stupidity, and our moronacy. Take a look at what's going on over in Israel and Palestine. The universe would have got rid of us a long time ago. You ask, well, why hasn't God done it? He should have got... Yes, he's about to do some corrections, but just like a parent who has a child like Keith, who has sickle cell anemia, the child is going to have to go through some pain before the child gets better. Parent who has a child who needs to have an operation, the child is going to have to go through some pain before the child gets better. Well, mankind is going to have to go through some pain before things get better. People say, well, how much pain? Until he says enough. Just that simple. Well, anyway, I was doing this video because I was thinking, I saw a name come across the TV and it was Merle. And I knew this young lady named Merlin. And Merlin was my sister's friend. And Merlin was extremely infatuated with me. To the point to where it was irritating. The way she looked at me, it from point A to point B. She never left me alone. I don't like that type of attention from nobody. She wasn't the only one. Throughout my life, for some reason, women have been infatuated. Not every woman. Please. It ain't like that. It's, they see something, they see personality, they see something they like, and they don't leave me alone. And what they don't understand is I don't want nobody chasing me. That's why it was very difficult for my son's mother and I at the beginning, because she liked me. It's not that I didn't like her. I didn't know her, first of all, but I liked her sister. They were twins. And I gave her a chance. Now, I am, to this day, sorry that I did. Because that was, Hades! Hades, Hades. Who Hades? Lord have mercy, Hades. If you thought Hades wasn't hot, man, Lord, that was torture. Sorry, I apologize. Hey, I was listening. I've been watching a lot of the videos on the Mandela Effect, and they were talking about Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal. Let me explain to you guys. I listened to Smooth Criminal over and 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 over again. I told people if it wasn't for the allegations that came out, Smooth Criminal, that album would have done better than Bad and Thriller, because that's where it was headed. Michael Jackson was getting ready to release a video, okay, dealing with Dangerous. And he literally was going all out for that. And then all of a sudden, they threw that allegation stuff and the album simmered. But that album was taken off. It was getting ready to go. He had just released Smooth Criminal, just released the video and everything. And he was getting ready to release the Dangerous video. And the album was going there. And next thing you know, nowhere. Well, the Mandela Effect. Watched a couple of videos, and if you don't know about the Mandela Effect, watch a couple of videos on the Mandela Effect. I promise you'll understand. For instance, in the Smooth Criminal video, Michael Jackson says, you've been struck by a smooth criminal. I've listened to it too many times. Nobody can tell me it didn't say that. They couldn't tell me it didn't say that because I sang the song all the time. What the video? Well, it turns out, the Mandela Effect, it doesn't say you've been struck by a smooth criminal. It says you've been hit by a smooth criminal. It doesn't say the word struck. Now, I know for a fact that it said you've been struck by a smooth criminal. Even before the guy said it, I was singing a song in my head. Go back and listen to it now. It doesn't say that. That's interesting, ain't it? Well, there are a couple of things. Just like there was news reports that Nelson Mandela had died in prison. I know that because they were talking about the apartheid, that he had died in the 80s. Then all of a sudden, they were talking in the 90s about him being released through some deal. What the flying... You know, now, what's the issue here? Well, you watch the videos of the Mandela effect, you'll see that Luke, I am your father. Well, they're saying he never said, Darth Vader never said to Luke, I am your father. He said, um, no, he didn't say the word Luke. He says, oh God, I forgot what they actually say he says. He does say, I am your father. No, he says, no, I am your father. But that's not what he originally said. Now, we all know he said, Luke, I am your father. Or the, when you watch Snow White and the, not the dwarfs, so which one is it? Yeah, Snow White. And the so-called wicked witch goes, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Well, it turns out she never said mirror, mirror on the wall. She said magic mirror on the wall. Now, I want to let you know, I have heard a version where she says magic mirror on the wall. I did catch that when I was a kid because I had heard mirror, mirror on the wall. Now, here's the catch 22 with this. Because we've heard so many annotates of other films repeating similar phrases to other films, that is the possibility why we believe it was mirror, mirror on the wall, because other adaptations of movies similar, spoofing the movie, may have said something similar, spoofing the original. You follow me? So the reason why we probably believe that it originally said, Luke, I am your father, because I haven't seen the original, because I didn't go to the theaters to watch Star Wars. I wasn't a Star Wars person. Okay? So I didn't hear the original. But I did hear all the spoofings and all of the TV shows and all of the cartoons that said things like, Luke, I am your father. So it's a possibility. Okay? Even with the lunar landing. Okay, Houston, we have a problem. Turns out that's not what he said, but that's what it said on film. So because it says that on films, we have probably heard the film version so often that we believe that's what the original was. That's my rendition of the possibility. Nobody else is saying that, but I am. Anyway, again, I was sitting up here thinking about Keith and thinking about Kevin. And now I'm going to be thinking about all the other ones that we've lost because there's so much death around us right now. And again, without the resurrection, we have no hope. Those of you who are trying to figure out how you're going to make it through next year, stop worrying about next year. Focus on today, the 24-hour mark. Don't worry about tomorrow. Worry about getting through 24 hours. I promise you, if you can discipline yourself for just focusing on 24 hours, everything changes. You'll see things from a whole different perspective. Now, look, y'all, it's late, and I done talked about junk. Well, it's not junk because I took the time to do this. That's how I know it's not junk. And I do know that it's impotent because, like I said, there are people out there who appreciate my person as a person, not bragging about this, and I'm not even taking pride in it. What I'm trying to say is not only do I get it, I understand it. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. If I were looking at me from the outside, I would want to be my friend. This no joke. But I wouldn't get along with me. Okay, my personality would match and I would not get along with me. Okay, I would tolerate me. You better believe I would tolerate me, but that's to that extent. But after that, I wouldn't have time for me. So to the rest of you, when I say I don't have time for friends, I'm not looking for friends. Don't take that personal. It has nothing to do with you. Don't try to become my friend because that will offend me. Just be you. Okay? Just be you. And everything else works out just fine. Stop listening to every word I say and taking it too seriously. Because then that means you really don't understand this man at all. It ain't that serious. If I make a comment on video, it's a video, people. It is not day-to-day life. Yeah. Sometimes I speak my mind and I tell you exactly how I'm feeling. But that doesn't mean that's my response every single time to every single person, every single day, every single moment, every single hour, every single. That's not the way it works. Look, Alex Jones, and I don't like Alex Jones anymore. I used to like him. He used to give pretty good information. I used to think he was grounded. But right now, he is a drama queen. Excuse me. That's what he appears to be to me. He did a whole show talking about how he was quitting and everybody hated him and didn't want to help him, and next thing you know, he's still doing shows. It's swore up and down he was quitting. Then he's showing up right there again. Well, you said you were going to stop doing consults and you're still doing consults. Look here, you idiot. I'm only doing consults because people asked me, told me how important it was to them. Other than that, I wouldn't be doing it. Well, it's the same thing. You better leave me to. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I got to go take care of some business. I done told him not to be interrupting my conversation, so I got to go take care of that. But you ain't going to take care of nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk to y'all later. All right. Y'all have a good day. I'll speak to y'all next time.